Let's talk about My Hero Academia chapter 318. But first, two things. Number one, like, comment, and subscribe. And yesterday's live stream, my subscribers said that they want me to have 75,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And I'm going to be doing my part in bringing you banger content after banger content after banger content. And two, Bakugo. I need you to save Deku real quick. I genuinely don't know how to feel about My Hero Academia chapter 318. It seems to me that Horikoshi is just trying to put us in the pit of sadness and sorrow and pain and agony that Deku is in. Although I don't really have any emotional connection to the chapter, meaning that this chapter didn't strike an emotional chord to me, what it did make me do is to think, and just think a lot, and think a lot more about Deku, and think a lot more about the future, and think a lot more about the past. So let me just tell you what I think about this chapter. My Hero Academia chapter 318 is titled Smash That Like Button for the YouTube Algorithm. And it begins with the phone call from Endeavor to Deku telling him that we have some huge news. Apparently, they have a confirmed date for the foreign heroes to come in to try to help, which is really huge because now we not only get to see what the heroes are like around the world, but we also get to see how they perceive Japan in their time of sorrow and turmoil and pain. Now, Endeavor is trying to tell Deku that because they have confirmation of a time when the new heroes are going to come around, he doesn't have to work as hard and he can just take a rest. Because at this point in time, we have no idea how long he's been on this entire run of trying to save the world. Obviously, he takes time to sleep and eat, but I'm pretty sure that he keeps those to the minimum. But it seems like Deku is just trying to end everything, and that's not my thoughts. That's literally what it's yeah. But even with this information, Deku still tells Endeavor that it's okay. He's still alive. He's still walking. So as long as there's villains attacking, he's going to be there. Now, when it comes to this mindset, I find it to be very ironic because that's very much something that I feel like All Might would say. But the difference is All Might is actually coming at it from a logical and a good place, whereas Deku is coming at it from a place of trauma and fear of the unknown of All For One and Shigaraki's plan. But he still is very much attached to this ideology of heroes saving a villain, and it's just so mind-blowing that those two personality types are inside of one character, and I freaking love it. Horikoshi, you madman. Now, not only does Deku not take the advice of Endeavor, but he also not take the advice of all the users inside of One For All. Yoichi, who is the first One For All users, tells Deku that his wounds and his injuries have not healed yet, and that now is not the time to be pushing himself. But unfortunately, in that split second, Danger Sense went off, which means that there is a villainous attack happening in the area, and Deku sprints straight to the scene, disregarding what the first One For All user said. Now, one of the most interesting things, now maybe this isn't interesting to you all, but it's interesting to me sometimes, is the mannerism that Yoichi has in this specific conversation. I don't know why I like the fact that he called him number 9 rather than Izuku, or rather than Deku, or rather than Midoriya, but that'd be a really interesting archetype as far as how he holds himself and how he goes about living. I don't know if it's consistent with the other conversations he's had in the past, so I can't really say this is true, but I'm kind of born like that and I like that. Also, another interesting thing is that Yoichi, who probably out of everybody inside of the One For All versus world has the will that's stronger than all of them, or at least when it comes to justice and doing the right thing and being a hero and everything, the simple fact that he's trying to tell Deku to slow down is really good because he's trying to give him wise counsel and Deku still isn't taking it, so it doesn't matter. And again, I say I don't really like it. Not saying that this is a critique or something that's negative about Deku as a character, but it is quite ridiculous for Deku to continuously go down this path of judgment, especially when other people are able to help as well, which is the reason why I love All For One even more, because he is the single reason why Deku is in this position, and he only encountered Deku through a hologram. We then go into the One For All versus world, where we see all the One For All users talking to each other about Deku. Nana Shimura said that it's her feelings that are the one that are affecting Deku. I need to slow that down because I think a lot of people probably will gloss over this one simple statement. Nana Shimura, who is a vestige or a consciousness or a piece of her consciousness inside of the One For All void inside of Deku, can affect the feeling of Deku through her own feelings. That's kind of huge for the One For All quirk if the One For All vestiges have their own emotions and that can actually affect Deku. Because just on the surface level of thinking, that gives a little bit more ideas of them potentially taking over his body in certain circumstances. Because if their emotions are so overwhelming that they can affect Deku's actions, then the future result of that could be similar to what happened with Shigaraki and All For One, where All For One actually took over Shigaraki's body. I can be wrong and this is just surface level thinking, but that is something that is really interesting, and I might wait until the official translation to talk more about that, because if the official translation keeps up with this type of context, then that means that in my breakdown video that I do every single Sunday, I might break that down as a potential theory. Now we see Shinomori, who is the fourth One For All user, say that But to Deku, it's just a means to an end, awakening all the quirks inside of One for All. So it seems like everyone in the Vestige world are all on the same page when it comes to Deku's current actions. Everyone except the second One for All user, who we don't know his name or quirk just yet. He said that the path that Deku is on is the correct one, and that Deku shouldn't be allowed to stop doing what he's doing, because in a situation like this, Deku's actions are 1000% needed. And then he goes on to say, perhaps there's something that we could do to protect Deku. Now, obviously, the only thing that I can think of when it comes to that statement is that we're finally going to be able to see the second user's quirk, or it can be something that's completely wild and different, and the second One for All user actually take over Deku's body. That way, Deku's consciousness can be inside of the One for All Vestige world, and that the second One for All, this theory might actually be something that could hold up. Now, obviously, I don't think that that's the case unless his quirk allows him to do that. But I think that it could be the case because we've seen it was possible for Shigaraki and All for One. So just hold on to that theory until Sunday, and then I might touch up on it a little bit later. Now, one of the most interesting things about this entire chapter happens right after they leave the One for All Vestige world. We see Deku going into his shopping mall area to try to defeat some villains, but in his time trying to fight against some villains, we literally see civilians look at Deku and say, ah, multiple quirks. Is he All for One's apprentice, or is he connected to All for One in any type of way? And even though Deku says of course not, they don't really accept his response, and they run away in fear that he's actually associated to All for One. This is really interesting to me, not just because the civilians ran away, but it's interesting because Deku continuously says to himself that he's trying to help everyone. He doesn't want anyone to have any type of pain or any type of trouble anymore, and in wanting to protect everyone and trying to be a symbol of peace, he actually represents something that is not a symbol of peace, and instead he's actually representing confusion and fear in the society in which he's trying to protect, which could go into the very unjust version of how society is, where if you look like you're a hero and you're a hero, then you're a hero, and if you don't look like a hero and you're a hero, then you're a villain, or if you don't look like a hero and you're a villain, you're scum. But it seems like Deku just isn't caring until we get to the end part of this chapter, which changed everything forever. This is the portion of the chapter that goes deeper and deeper into the abyss of sorrow and pain that Deku is feeling, and for some reason every chapter Horikoshi is making it known that Deku is still thinking about All for One's your next statement. So Deku now is trying to focus on mastering One for All. We don't know what percentage he's at, but it seems like he potentially could be at a higher percentage than he otherwise was. But Deku goes from thinking about All for One to thinking about where Shigaraki and everyone is, to thinking about mastering One for All, to thinking about why he is doing what he's doing in the first place. And all he wants to do is just be with the people he cares about and enjoy time with them like he used to do in the past. This is setting up one of the most saddest moments in the entire series, because we know 1000% that the story of My Hero Academia is never going to go back to a good, great society, especially when Deku is trying to be the symbol of peace, and the only person that knows a lot about it is the person he's separating himself away from again, which is All Might. All Might really never had the luxury of saying that he was able to sit down and smile with other people. He was more tired than any other person trying to do exactly what Deku is trying to do right now. So on a practical level, with what Deku actually wants to do in life, he can't actually achieve it, and in every other level he can't achieve it either, because the entire society is still in ruin. But he still wants to just smile with everyone again, and that's just so sad. I think Deku, God dang it, Horikoshi, you made Deku just such a sad character in this chapter. And to make it even more sad, when Deku gets to the destination of the villain dictator, he tries to land on the ground, but he doesn't have enough energy to be able to brace for impact, so he just falls on the ground and just sits there for the entire encounter with dictator. Deku literally is weakened. He's weak because he's mentally weak, and he's weak because he's physically weak. And when dictator uses his quirk Dictator, which is pretty much an overpowered version of Shinso's brainwashing quirk, allowing him to be able to control anybody in the vicinity consciously, Deku not only allows himself to get captured by the civilians in the area, but he's literally saying, it's okay, I'm going to protect you, while looking like he's just so done with life, accepting the pain and responsibility of everyone falling on his shoulder. God dang it, Horikoshi with these representations. However, he is a one-off villain because Bakugo comes to save the day, and he ends him in a quick fast hurry. Now, there are a few things about this Bakugo entrance that's really fascinating to me. The first thing is obviously the AP shot that he did against Dictator, because if you look at the panel in which he did the AP shot, the amount of precision that he needs is kind of more superior than what he's used to doing. That could indicate that Bakugo actually did experience a quirk awakening, and I really hope we get to see and hear from that next chapter. The next really interesting thing about Bakugo showing up is the convenience or the coincidence of the second One for All users coming into Deku's head, saying if there's something that we could do to protect Izuku Deku Midoriya, and then Bakugo randomly showing up at the particular point in time, then that means two separate things that can connect to each other. The first is that, again, we're going to be able to get more information on who the second one for all user is and what his plan is to protect Deku. And in the physical world, we actually have Bakugo, who will be able to protect Deku. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Bakugo and the second user come into the exact same panel with the exact same idea. And I'm not saying anything crazy, but I do have a video on why Bakugo and the second one for all user are connected, and I think you should check that video out right now when you zone every single day.